Morning, everybody. Just give everybody a minute to hop on. So we're up to a handful of participants. So let's give it a minute here to make sure everybody gets on, but respecting everybody's time to not wait too long. So let's give it another minute. Morning, everybody. Like I said earlier, if you weren't on here already, just wait for everybody to get on. We have about 50 folks already signed up and on the meeting. And so let's give it just another 30 seconds or so. Make sure everybody gets on so we can start this meeting. All right, so it looks like the people coming into the meeting is starting to level out. We only have limited time to talk about core and all the updates from in the IM. So let's kind of jump into it. If everybody doesn't mind, if that's okay. And welcome to today's work group for the Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Project, or CORE. My name is Todd Sterling. I'm a lead staff overseeing CORE, and I'm joined today by several other CARB staff and our project administrator, CalStart. On the CARB side, we have Rochelle Bishop, Eloy Flores, and Eric Brown. And for CalStart, we have Jacob Whitson. Just want to give everybody a heads up. This meeting is being recorded now. And if you can, and when it's all done, we'll post this on the CARB web pages. But before we get started, a little more information on the work group logistics. The presentation is not very long. I think it's best if we run through all the slides first, and I can answer questions and comments at the end. Again, this meeting is being recorded, and we will have and a list of the meeting participants. It'll be available on the Low Carbon Transportation Investments and Air Quality Improvement Programs Meetings and Work Groups webpage, and also the CORE webpage in about 2 weeks. In addition, we'll be leveraging Zoom's raised hand feature to facilitate questions and comments. If there are any Zoom disruptions for any reason, including malicious intent, we will immediately end today's meeting and send out another notice to reschedule. And lastly, we're unable to allow anonymous meeting participants for security reasons. So please make sure your name is clear on the Zoom platform. If you've called in, we'll call on you if you raise your hand, and we'll use the last 4 digits of your number. My contact information is at the end. If you have additional questions or comments after this meeting, we can contact you by email. I'll get back to you and answer your questions. As always, we appreciate your patience if we run into any technical glitches. I also want to mention this meeting is about implementing the heavy-duty CORE project for 2023. We're not here to discuss funding policy or professional landscaping. Those are other topics for other meetings. Today, we're just going to discuss the implementation of the heavy-duty CORE project for 2023. Next slide, please. A little overview for CORE for folks who are not familiar with CORE. The program is a first come, first served system. CORE is intended to accelerate the deployment of advanced technology in the off-road sector by providing a streamlined way for fleets to access funding, which will help offset the incremental cost of such technology. CORE targets commercial-ready products which have not yet established and achieved a market foothold. The program allows stacking, which means you can use funding from this program and other incentive programs, but still need to follow the incentive rules for both. Also, CORE does not require scrappage of one of your current pieces of equipment or vessels. There are enhancements for infrastructure, small businesses, and operations in disadvantaged communities. Next slide. The funding plan for the clean transportation incentives was approved by our board last November. During that meeting, the board approved $273 million to fund zero-emission off-road equipment in core. $77 million was used to fund a contingency list for 2022. Back in February, CalSTART had a meeting to discuss that. And the remaining funding, about $182 million, will be used to fund this newest round of core, which we'll be talking about today. One of the items we requested from our board to approve was to increase the funding per piece of equipment or vessel from $500,000 to $1 million in the commercial hovercraft, cargo handling equipment, and the rail categories. Next slide. So we've listened to the stakeholder input. That's what most of this meeting is about and how we're making changes. But I just want to point that out that this core funding round, we'd like to separate into 11 different off-road categories, as you can see from this list here. Some highlights, the forklift and the cargo handling equipment will have their own separate categories. We have updated the switcher locomotives to freight, which includes switcher locomotives. Also combining mobile power units and aircraft ground power units. That just made sense. And then mobile shore power cable management systems, which has been in core for the last few rounds. We will now add a new category for commercial hovercraft shoreside supply equipment. So I know I'm a big mouthful, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So next slide, please. This is a grouping of different highlights of the updates we'd like to make to the implementation manual. So I'll just kind of go through one by one, no particular order of importance. All the equipment we'd like to require to be 19 kilowatts or greater. We were running into a lot of issues with using the equivalency of 25 horsepower. What does that really mean? We think as zero emission equipment expands, this is just a cleaner dividing line. In the same vein, mobile power units and airport ground power units must be 40 kilowatt hours or greater. In the last round, we said no one category could receive more than 20% of the total funding. This round, we'd like to divide the $182 million between the 11 different categories equally. We've added inductive charging, which can be paid for using infrastructure enhancements. Also, government agencies, we're still having issues with submitting a PO. We've extended the time out for those agencies from 90 days to 365 days. Also, we've removed all the business day limits and added calendar days. It's just way easier for everybody. And another thing that we think would be really helpful for this program we'd like to set aside $10 million for small businesses only. And the last round, if you remember, we did a small business can apply. They had a 5-day grace period, and once the category is full, the small business will get moved to the top of the list. And so that worked okay, but again, it's only 5 days, and it was a lot of shuffling for folks. This set aside for the first 180 days would just be for small businesses. Last year we had about $7 million of small businesses, so we think the 180-day period will provide small businesses more time to apply and not compete with larger companies and larger orders. We'd also like to reduce the amount for ag tractor additional batteries. Last go around, we had up to $30,000 amount and dropped it down to $20,000. This is part of a strategy to better align with other CARB programs, which require scrappage. Another thing that we'd like to talk about is TRU standardization plugs. We would like the input from the zero emission TRU manufacturers on which plug should be a standard plug. From the our other divisions, that we're running into situations where plugs are different plugs and not and incompatibility issues. So if the zero emission CRU folks reach out to me, hopefully we can work together and come up with a common plug for everybody. So next slide. So getting a little bit deeper into the updates. So the forklifts, we're always trying to streamline the equipment eligibility. It would like to set voucher amounts for the forklift at the following. Only the largest forklifts would be analyzed for price differential on equivalent diesel powered forklifts. So as you can see, we added much more specifics on the lift capacity category, adding the distance and the load center. We'll keep the current eligible forklifts in the program, but as you send in your annual updates, this information will be required and updated. Next slide, please. Getting into the commercial hovercraft stuff, over the past several months, we've met with several commercial hovercraft stakeholders, and these conversations are reflected in these updates. Like as we discussed earlier, we increased the maximum amount per vessel from $500,000 to $1 million. Many of the commercial hovercraft projects take a long time to complete, and many projects are not ready to issue a PO with a voucher. So we're proposing commercial hovercraft projects can submit a letter of intent that has been executed no more than 60 calendar days prior to the voucher submittal date. Then they must provide a purchase order within 730 calendar days. There will not be a renewal beyond 32 months. We thought this was reasonable and can really help out commercial hovercrafts with their longer timelines on their projects. Next slide. Sticking with the commercial hovercraft theme, we've added a new category for commercial hovercraft infrastructure, and we're hoping this funding for zero emission infrastructure to ports and harbors paired with a core vessel voucher will help stretch your dollars a little bit further. This funding category will help commercial hovercraft infrastructure with commercial hovercraft vessel vouchers. Also, if a commercial hovercraft is getting funding for a zero emission upgrade, using funding for commercial hovercraft and maxes out $1 million for a single vessel, this would provide extra funds for infrastructure. So it would be 2 vouchers, one for the vessel and one for the infrastructure. So next slide, please. Right, we'll open up for comments. We'll ask that you raise your hand and let us know if you'd like to ask a question or a comment. Eric will unmute your line. For those of you participating via phone, please press #2 to raise your hand, and please state your name and affiliation. It just makes it easier for everybody if you state your name and affiliation, that we understand where you're coming from, and it helps for the recording and for folks that maybe are not watching on their computer. Again, my name is Todd Sterling. Here's my email address. If you have questions or comments you think of later today, you want to share with me, you can write up an email and send it my way. I've also included the web pages and how to sign up for listservs on the California Core webpage. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we are unable to allow anonymous meeting participants for security reasons. Please make sure your name is clear on the Zoom platform. If you've called in or call on raise your hand, we'll use the last 4 digits of your number. And again, if we run into technical glitches, I think everything's going fine right now, but you never know what's going to happen. We appreciate your patience. Okay, Eric, if you can open up for questions and comments, and we can hop into those right now.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, Todd. Our first question or comment is going to come from Chad White. Chad, I'm going to unmute your microphone. Will you please state your name and affiliation?
Hi, Todd. It's Chad White from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. Am I audible?
Yes, you sound great, Chad. Good morning.
Good morning. Just a question on that last slide. There's a lot of detail that went by quickly, so sorry if I'm just asking about the very last slide. A lot of good stuff in there. the stuff about the commercial hovercraft systems, it said energy storage on that previous slide, but I'm not seeing stuff that looks like it's units of measurement for storage. So is this including battery systems or something like that, or is it really just about charging?
I guess it could include battery charging, battery backup systems also. We haven't really run into that a lot in the off-road space yet. We do have mobile power units and ground power units and airports and stuff like that. But as far as infrastructure, we haven't run into that. But commercial hovercraft is a whole nother area that we're expanding into. And if that's what's needed, we just have to update this table to reflect that. And any dollar amounts that seem reasonable that could fit in there, we'd love to hear from our stakeholders on how we could include that into this latest round.
Okay, thanks, Todd. I think that, yeah, I guess I would expect to see units of kilowatt hours or amp hours if we were talking about storage systems, because all of this kind of looks like it's just charging. And unfortunately, I don't know off the top of my head what the cost of those things are, but I can try to think about that. I think it's just a prelude to where this is going for all of the systems to storage filter into that. That's kind of where I was asking, but this slide was the one I saw it the most clearly. So thank you.
Sure.
Okay, our next question is going to come from Terry. Terry, I am going to unmute your mic. Please state your name and affiliation.
Hi, my name is Terry Mannies, and I am with Orange EV. We manufacture electric terminal trucks, and I was curious. So you said that there will be $182 million total for core, and that you said 10 million of that is going to be held aside for small businesses. So is that 182 minus 10? So that's 172, and that is what's going to be divided evenly among 11 categories, or is there going to be a further reduction based upon what is going to go to small gardeners yard?
No, we're not talking gardeners, Terry. So yes, you're correct. So
Okay,
we're looking at like a total of 182 million for this round of core. 10 million would come out for small businesses.
Okay.
So we're looking at about 172 million categories.
okay, you cut out there for me. So that's okay. So it's 172 divided by 11 to get an equal for what's in each category.
About that, right? Correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I
Welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Terry.
Okay, our next comment or question is going to come from Scott. Scott, I am going to unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
This is actually Robert Blumenfeld with Danner. Scott's my boss. I must have used his link. Apologies for that. Robert Blumenfeld with Danner.
I'm sorry, one more time. Will you just state your name again one more time, since you're logged onto somebody else's account and I can make a note of it?
Sorry about that. Robert Blumenfeld with Danner.
Thank you very much, sir. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I had an invite as well. I just must have pressed the one that was forwarded.
No
Sorry
worries.
about that.
That's okay. That's fine.
Real quick question. Really appreciate the municipality LOI and the extension of the 365 days to produce the PO. Is there anything, I've had this asked by municipality customers, is there anything in the LOI you guys want to see? Do you have any language at all? They've asked if they can change.
You've cut out.
Cut out there. I know we've had. I'll try to answer your question. I didn't hear the last part of it, but I think I know where you're going with this. We had other LOIs. I don't know if we can or have CalSTART produce sort of a template of what an LOI should look like, or sort of a list of things that we'd want on there. But we could do something like that. So why don't you reach out to me with what you have, and we'll compare that to what we've done in the past.
Okay, great. Thanks, Todd. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, our next comment or question is going to come from Amy. Amy, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
This is Amy Kemwell with XL Lifts. Question, Todd, on the category caps, is that still a 6 month? And that 6 month cap, and then it opens up who first come, first serve after that, if a category hasn't reached its max?
Right, that's what we're thinking. It's just like the last round,
Okay,
right? So if it's maxed out, then we'll start a contingency list and go from there.
okay, so same as last time. Okay, okay, so except different, instead of 9 from last time, there's 11 this time.
Correct. Uh-huh.
Okay, and then the second question, the forklift amounts, voucher amounts, have they changed? That was so quick, it just flashed so quick. Is that, are we doing
Yeah,
that?
we can go back to that. So what we've done in the past is had up to amounts for different lift capacities. Working with other forklift manufacturers, we came up with this for just an amount, depending on the forklift size. We've also limited to, I can't remember off the top of my head, it has to have at least a 42-inch load center, even for the smallest, even for
You
the
mean
smallest.
24 inch, right?
24 inch, yes.
Okay, so that was a change. Okay. Perfect. Okay,
So
that's
love to hear, Amy, love to hear back from you if you think these amounts are reasonable or not reasonable. So love to get your
is this where we're at? Or, I mean, is this set in stone, or you guys are still open for feedback on this? Obviously.
still open for feedback.
Okay.
Nothing's set in stone until we finalize it, but you know, so that's where we are. So again, these are all draft proposals.
Okay.
This is the public meeting to discuss this and get your feedback on what will make this the best program we can make.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay, I inadvertently lowered Brian Harris's hand. If you still have a question, Brian, will you please raise your hand? You were next in line. I'll give you a minute to do that. If not, then we'll move on to the next one. There we go. Okay, Brian, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation. You're going to have to unmute on your, there you go.
There we go. This is Brian Harris, and I'm with Pape Material Handling. And want to comment 2 questions. A, thank you very much. All the information provided today is great. Love all the, I'll say, nuances you've made to the program. So thank you very much there. But 2 questions. First off, you mentioned trying to standardize on the charging plug for all equipment, if that's a possibility. My question there, is that going to be what your goal is? Is that per category? Or say in the lift truck side, there's definitely some nuances there that would make that potentially more difficult. And I'm just wondering if you'd be willing to have a side conversation concerning the complexity of that and exactly what you're trying to get to.
So to answer your question there, Brian, that was for the zero emission TRUs. So we're working with our another division in ARB that is working on the zero emission TRU regulations, and they're noticing a lot of different TRU manufacturers with different plugs. So that was aimed towards just TRU manufacturers. If there's other issues within off-road category that we need, or do you think we can help streamline or standardize through CORE, love to hear from you. And we can start working towards that. I'm not saying we can put that in this round of CORE, but we could definitely start working towards that. We just don't want to get a situation, you know, the zero emission off-road area is still, you know, new and fresh. We don't want to get a situation where we have 5 different plugs. They get out to a you know, construction site. The plug doesn't work with the infrastructure, and that's not a good situation for anybody. So we're just trying to avoid that situation.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And 2, this draft presentation, is that available online that I can grab a copy of so I could have some internal conversations?
Yes, it should be online now.
Okay.
Put it online late yesterday. If you can't find it, Brian, send me an email and I'll send it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
All right.
Okay, our next comment or question is going to come from Doran. Doran, I'm going to go ahead and I apologize if I mispronounce your name. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
Good afternoon, all. This is Duran Mobam with ITW GSC. I was wondering, number one, if there is a projected date on when the requests when we'll be open to put in for requests for vouchers. And my number 2 is just understanding the how you categorize the MPU with GPU, since it's 2 very different applications.
Right, both great questions. So we're looking to open probably mid-July, late July, something like that. We'll get comments back on the proposals that they've made here for the updating the implementation manual, and we'll come out with a final implementation manual. Once we do that, we'll also have a date for opening. So we're looking for that. And as far as the combining mobile shore power, or no, I'm sorry, mobile and aircraft ground power units, they are different. I totally see that, but it's just a grouping for the funding totals, right? So we're dividing this up by 11, and that was just a good way to group those 2 together for funding totals. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, our next comment or question is going to come from Bill. Bill, again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Harju, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
Oh, there we go. Hi, my name is Bill Harju. I'm with Pacific Maritime Group. We have California Harborcraft, and my question is, I already have an application on the Carl Moyer program for an electric tug and shore power supply. Can we apply on this as well and maybe adjust the Carl Moyer application because maybe it's been over a year we've had it submitted and we haven't got any answer yet. So I don't know if it's too high and I've had a couple of questions that I've answered and I still don't have a decision yet. So I'm just wondering if we could do this to make it more palatable for us and for the Carl Moyer folks.
Yeah, that's a good question. Usually folks get into the core program and then stack on top of that. Haven't worked on it the other way around, but why don't we set up a meeting, send me an email, we'll set up a meeting, and maybe we can meet with the Carl Moyer folks to see how we can work this out.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, our next comment or question is going to come from Cody. Cody, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Hey, my name's Cody Polifka. I work with Lift One forklifts in Atlanta, Georgia. I had a question. I think it was kind of just answered. I guess I just wanted to clarify the date for opening. That's to be determined.
Correct.
Okay, so just
we're hoping sometime mid to late July.
Okay.
Was that your question?
I had a couple more questions. I was just making notes on my end.
Okay, no worries. I didn't want to go for it.
Yep. So my follow-up to that is, once the dates are opened and voucher requests are submitted, is there an estimated turnaround time to either get approved or denied, I guess?
Yeah, all that's in the current IM. It's just pretty quick. There's a lot of it depends on the paperwork on your side. I don't know if Cody, if you're already in the program, if not, then you'd have to, you could be a dealer and get in the program and be an eligible dealer. That takes a little bit of time and a little bit of studying, but we can talk more about that also if you'd like. I don't know where you're at.
We were approved as a dealer last year,
Okay.
so that process was taken care of, but
Okay, good.
much appreciated there. My last question was, last year the forklifts had different funding amounts based on their brand or their amp hour capacity or kilowatt hour capacity. Is that not the case anymore? It's all based on actual load capacity and load center?
Right. There's just too much disparity between the different forklifts. And we work with different forklift manufacturers. We came up with this funding amount. So instead of being compared to a diesel forklift, we're just going to have these set amounts depending on the lift capacity and the load center.
Perfect. I think that'll be, I guess my opinion was it could potentially have been unfair last year, but I think this is a much better way to do it. So thank you very much.
Great news. Thank you, Cody.
That's all I had. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you.
Okay, our next comment or question is going to come from Will Tomlinson. Will, go ahead. I've unmuted your microphone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
perfect.
sir.
Thank you, Will.
Hi, this is Will Tomlinson with Monarch Tractor. I was wondering if the VPC is going to be handled the same way in terms of the items that are to be uploaded for claiming your voucher as it was last year.
Yeah, I think Jacob can speak to this, but I don't think we've changed much as far as the VPC. We might be asking a few more questions as far as, what kind of industry you're in. I know we've also added some demographic information and some questions, but as far as the basic, outline and the questions that are asked, I think that's remained pretty consistent from last year.
Okay, thank you. And then I had another question about when the contingency from last year would be processed. Is that going to be ahead of any of the new vouchers for 2023 going through, or is there a timeline for that?
Yeah, well, we were hoping that'd be done by now, but it's not. They're still going through the review process here at ARB. But in lieu of that, remember from that meeting in February, CalSTART had about $8 to $9 million left over from previous rounds. We've started funding the top of the wait list with that money, and hopefully very soon we can release that $37 million and fund the rest of the contingency list.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, our next comment or question is going to come from Leah. Leah, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
Hi, this is Leela Rao from the Port of Long Beach. I had a couple of questions. One was regarding the terminal tractors and cargo handling equipment categories. I really like what you've done with the forklifts, and I'm wondering if there's been any thought to do something similar to that with the yard tractors, just because the ones that are really going to be more capable of doing the duty cycles at the ports are not the same as the ones that are at the warehouses. And in general, a lot of our port folks have kind of have had a hard time accessing core because it gets snapped up really quickly by more of the warehouse terminal tractors. So I guess I'm just kind of wondering if there's any thought to sort of splitting out and maybe even providing more funding, because the more capable yard tractors are more expensive. Sort of making different categories and trying to parse things out more, kind of like what you're doing with the forklifts.
Yeah, that's a good question. We initially were thinking about reducing the amount of the terminal tractor category, right? Because right now it's at $120,000 per terminal tractor. I did get some responses back from folks saying that the terminal tractor cost is going up, and terminal tractors at ports and rail yards are a little more expensive. So we kept it at the $120,000. But yeah, if you can supply us with some data, Leela, that'd be great, and maybe we can split those out from like smaller style terminal tractors to larger style and bigger capacity.
Okay, yeah, we can work to see if we can pull something together for you guys.
Super, thank you.
The other question I had was on the Harborcraft infrastructure. I will sort of second the comment that was made that having the battery storage option for funding is really important for Harborcraft. We are working on doing a plug-in hybrid tugboat project, and I mean, battery storage is really essential for trying to make sure that we're not blowing out the grid when we plug in these really large pieces of equipment. So that would be great. I guess the other question is, you kind of were talking about this infrastructure as being in partnership with also the Harborcraft funding. So I guess my question is, do you have to have a voucher for a Harborcraft to take advantage of the infrastructure, or are they actually totally separate categories?
So to answer your other question first, yes, we could include batteries in battery storage for commercial Harborcraft into this table, just like I was talking to Chad about. Love to have some more data on that so we can make a better informed decision to what the amount would be. So any information you have, Leah, that'd be great. And then Yes, the infrastructure here would be tied with a core voucher for commercial aircraft. That would be two different vouchers, but they would be tied together. So it would not be a separate infrastructure project just by itself. It would have to be tied to a vessel.
I guess I'm wondering, so like, but if we have a vessel that's already funded, but we need additional funding for the infrastructure piece of it, we wouldn't be able to go after this then for just the infrastructure.
So if you have a core voucher for, say, a tugboat, right, and you also want to get infrastructure, we would go to this table to do infrastructure as a separate voucher. And the reason for that is we're hearing that even though we've increased this funding to up to $1 million, that's still not enough. And so what would happen is if say we provide this voucher for a tugboat and you're maxing out $1 million, any infrastructure you request would come out of that $1 million, right? So the totals would start coming down because you say you're getting infrastructure, maybe you're in a small business, or maybe you're in a disadvantaged community. Those would all come out of that $1 million. So this would be a way to max out the as much as you can for the repower or the new vessel, and then still also get money for infrastructure.
Okay, I guess my only comment there would be that for like large vessels like ship assist tugs, we're never going to be 100% zero emission, right? We're always going to have backup generators on board, so we would never qualify for a core voucher. But it would be helpful to still, there's not a lot of sources of funding out there for the infrastructure, the shore side, and still, if it's a battery dominant and it qualifies as a zero emission advanced technology tug based on CARB's definitions, then I would hope that you could still get some infrastructure funding through core.
Yeah, core is mainly a equipment, project to get equipment out there. We do, of course, we do have enhancements for infrastructure. We have this for commercial hovercraft infrastructure. And we've also started meeting with the California Energy Commission. They do more of the, shore power and infrastructure side of it. And maybe we can talk with them and work with them along with the ports of LA and Long Beach and other ports and other facilities to come up with a solution for that, because that is an issue.
Yep, I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, our next comment or question is going to come from Joe. Joe, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Joe Beek with the Babel Island Ferry. Thanks for hosting this webinar. It's been really helpful. I have two questions. How does the funding, the $182 million over 11 categories, how does that compare to the last round, specifically for commercial hovercraft?
So the last go around, we had $125 million, and then we divided that by 9 different categories. So we have a little bit more money this go around, but we separated out to a few different categories. So I think last round you could only get up to 20%, so that was about $15 million. I think if that's correct, Jacob, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Of course, commercial hovercraft did not use all that. We only had a few commercial hovercraft projects last go around, and then that money was used to fund other things on the contingency list. But this go around, we're looking at probably about a little over $17 million for the commercial hovercraft for vouchers.
Well, that's great news. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. And then my other question is, does the dealer list get updated? Is it live somewhere, or will it be updated with the solicitation?
No, the dealer list and the OEM list can be updated at any time. So that's open right now. So if you have a OEM that you think about using for your vessel, I encourage them to reach out to Eloy to get on the OEM list, and then on the dealer list for the dealers. They can do that right now.
So when I look at the dealer list on the website, that's kept current. That's not just with last year's solicitation. That's
kept current, and they need to update that annually. So whenever they update, whenever they put it in, if they put it in July, they have to update it in July. Or if they updated their equipment, say they put it in July 2022, the updated equipment in December 2022. They would have to submit to us an update, and then so it stays updated as much as we can. It stays current.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, our next comment or question is going to come from Bill. Bill, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
Hi, my name is Bill. I'm with Oakland Maritime Sports Services at the Port of Oakland. The question that I had was about TRU plugs. I see that you have a category for TRU. Does that include the plugs, or is that under the cable management? And how would you calculate that if for the grants?
So there is a TRU category. Right now we have trailer TRUs and like box mounted, truck mounted TRUs. What we're also talking about for the plugs is just how they're plugged into recharge them, right? So there's different TRU manufacturers with zero emission TRUs. How the plug is situated. I guess that's the right word. We're concerned that there's not a standardization across the board, and we're looking to that.
Actually, just to clarify, I'm not looking for the TRU units, but more like shore power for TRUs. So gensets don't have to be used over the road. We can pull them out and bring them and plug them in. So it'd be like shore power replacing the TRU.
So, okay, I guess I'm not following you. So this would be like an infrastructure type unit for the TRUs?
That's correct. So, and then if there's a difference between public and private places to plug.
Right. So even in the TRU category, we have enhancements right now for TRUs and an enhancement for infrastructure. And I'm bringing it up right now. I don't know off the top of my head, but so say for infrastructure, we have charging an added $3,000 for the TRU voucher, and also if you go down hydrogen refueling, a $9,000 enhancement. So Bill, you've raised an interesting question. We haven't thought about this, and if we need to add something to the infrastructure enhancement for TRUs, now would be the time to do that. I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on that, and also if you have data on the costs, that would be good to have also.
Great. Yeah, it's we're trying to replace the TRU so we don't have to use a diesel generator on those containers to deliver. A lot of times you can avoid using that by just plugging it in. And so we just need to create some more infrastructure plugs. So when the containers are pulled out from the port, they have a place to go land and get plugged in. That eliminates a TRU while it's sitting in the yard.
Right. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking to Leah about for Los Angeles, and she was talking about having separate infrastructure enhancements or separate infrastructure vouchers, and this might be another place where we need to talk to the California Energy Commission, where they do more of the infrastructure. This product does more of the equipment. So maybe this is something we need to talk to CEC about.
Great, thank you.
Okay, our next question or comment is going to come from Abigail. Abigail, I have unmuted your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
Hi, everybody. Abigail Struxness. I'm with SSA Marine. I have two questions. The first is if the voucher validity period will be the same as what it has been in the past, which is 1 year with a 8-month extension.
So no, so we've extended it out for commercial aircraft. So Usually the PO was I think it was 60 days. We've extended that to 730 days for commercial hovercraft. And then the max we can go out is 32 months or 965 calendar days.
Okay, and if it's not commercial hovercraft?
It's much shorter. We keep it the same as it was before. And
Okay.
that was at 12 months plus another 8-month extension. So, 20 months.
Okay, thank you. My other question is related to the infrastructure enhancement for cargo handling equipment. Wanted to see if modular or mobile charging stations would be included in this infrastructure enhancement rather than a charging station that is fully installed into the ground.
Yeah, I don't know if we've done that in the past. I'll look at Eloy or Jacob if we've done that in the past. If not, there are, we do have a whole separate category for vouchers just for mobile power.
I think
Thank
we've had offerings at the in the past. So if it's something that's currently in our catalog, certainly we can set with something we can look at. But reach out to us independently, and then to see if we can have a further discussion on it. If we can't, since we haven't given you a pretty solid answer just yet. So
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
no problem. Thank you.
Okay, our next question or comment is going to come from Kendall Crisp. Kendall, I'm unmuting your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
Hi there, Kendall Crisp with Briggs Industrial. We're currently a registered dealer for the core program, but I want to add additional OEMs that we're able to sell. Do I email you, Todd, or do I email the core dealer training at californiacore.org?
So if you want to add more dealers, you work with CalStart.
Okay.
If you want to add more equipment, you reach out to Eloy and myself.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, at this time, I'm not seeing any other hands raised. If anybody has a question or comment, please go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, next question or comment is going to come from Danny. Danny, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
Hi, Danny Leung from GNA. I just had a quick question regarding the funding for the contingency list. Did the funding amount, I know in the presentation today shows that 77 million is set aside for the contingency list for this year. Did that amount change from the February work group?
No, that's the same. So the $77 million came from that 273 million that the board authorized back in November. We also had another little over $8 million left over from previous projects that fell out. So we also funded with that also. So 77 plus 8 million was
Got it.
the list.
Okay. Okay. And because I'm just looking at the last presentation, it showed 71.88 million.
So what we're funding was 77 million.
Okay. Okay. Great. And then just a question for vouchers that are currently on the contingency list from an OEM, would that be, if an OEM has a fleet that no longer wants to use the vouchers, can they transfer that voucher to another fleet?
You can't transfer to another fleet, but they can reapply at this next go around in later this summer.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, our next question or comment is going to come from Jason Drake. Jason, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. Please state your name and affiliation.
My name is Jason Dake. I'm with OrangeEV. I just had a quick question on that last comment. The person posing the question asked if the holder of the voucher can transfer the voucher. Are you saying that the holder of the voucher can now assign that voucher to any party they choose, or it will be transferred to the wait list?
So I think if the question was the person or the owner operator did not want that voucher any longer, they're wondering if they can transfer it to another owner operator. That is not the case. So that voucher just goes blank. It goes, that money can be used other places. And if they come back around and would like to do that, they can reapply next go round.
Okay, thank you. I was just looking for clarification on that.
Okay, at this time, I'm not seeing any more questions or comments. We'll go ahead and hang on here for a little bit, a couple more minutes or so, in case anybody has any more questions or comments. If not, we can wrap the meeting up, and I'll turn it back over to Todd. We can always, his email information is there, and there's information about the core website that people can follow up on. But I'm not seeing any more questions. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you, everybody. If we don't have any other questions, we had a consistent, 120, 100 people on the call. So really appreciate your time today. Again, my name is Todd Sterling. If you have questions or comments, reach out to me. Here's my email address. And thank you very much for your time today and for your comments. Really appreciate it.
Todd, I'm going to leave the meeting.
Yeah.